Blessings, blessings, for this is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome to Word Unfiltered, where there's no filters, no chasers to the Word of God. I don't take from it, I don't add to it. He has already perfected it enough. Should kids be allowed at pride parades? Okay, most of us with common sense will say no. But we're going to see what these people, what these people believe or think as far as children being allowed at pride parades. This is the Turning Point UK, and I like to watch this channel because it helps me to see what these demonic people are thinking, how their minds really work. And I pray that they see themselves on this channel and it really kind of strike something within them to say, okay, I need to change because number one, this is against God's word. Number two, this is against common sense. Number three, this is against morals. I'm going to give my commentary throughout the video, so let's get to watching.
Should kids be allowed at pride festivals?
Yes.
There's evidence and common opinion to say that there is nudity, partial or otherwise, kink culture, adult content.
And when I was looking up some things to use for the thumbnail, it said one of the articles that pulled up was, yes, there's kink culture at Pride and I want my child exposed to it, or I want my child to see it. The world we live in, I tell you, but let's keep watching.
At these events, is that age appropriate for children?
I think it would be very dependent on what you're defining those terms as. But yes, kids run around naked all the time.
So because kids run around with no clothes on, that means it's okay for adults to run around kids with no clothes on? Do y'all see? This is already starting off horrendous.
If someone was to expose themselves on the street to a child, should they be arrested?
Yes.
What's the difference? What's the difference? Most pride parades are on the streets. They're exposed to kids. But if someone comes up to a child on the street and expose themselves, they should be arrested. What's the difference? Make it make sense, people. I hope she sees herself on this video.
Common sense. If someone at Pride parade expose themselves to a child, should they be arrested?
If a person that is not covered up walks up to a child and exposes them, then yes, they should be arrested. But if it's in a parade environment where people are expressing themselves and being their full person, and there's going to be nudity, and a parent can decide whether they can take their child there.
So if a person is covered up and then they uncover themselves, that's where the crime takes place. But not if they already are uncovered and they're in a place where there's children. Now, one thing I do agree with her is it's the parents' responsibility to protect their child from these things. But I also think that if a parent is taking their children or their child to these types of events, that they should be prosecuted. I really do. I believe it's child abuse. It's a violation. They're violating these children.
If you're taking your child to an event where you think there's going to be nudity, you're not then going to be like, oh, someone's exposed themselves to my child. Like, no, that's not going to happen.
And see, I do agree with that because if you take your child there, you can't complain about them being exposed to this stuff. But the thing is, whoever is running these events, there should be an age limit. There's an age limit on what movies a child can see. But of course, some rated R movies and movies that are not age appropriate, the movie theaters do leave it up to the parents. They have to be with a guardian in order to see the movie, and that's why I blame the parents, and I feel parents should be prosecuted, but there definitely should be an age restriction on these events where people are running around very inappropriately, and there's a lot of inappropriate things going on at these events.
Last but not least, Pride has developed over the last 50 years, arguably, incredibly so.
100, 50,
more. Is there any argument to say that Pride is now normalised and
legitimate? 150 more. I don't think we're going to be here that long, folks. I don't think this world gonna be here that long, but only God knows.
Demise for certain people, certain demographics, with ulterior motives, concerned specifically with children at these parades.
I think that people are trying to use pride as a argument for protecting children. If you're really worried about protecting children, like taking them to a pride festival is not really like the thing that you should be deciding on what is protecting them or not.
Should kids be allowed at pride festivals?
Yes.
These are craziest people. People are loony, okay? Like, and that's what the enemy does. He will use you and have you out here looking stupid. Have you out here looking foolish. Have you out here looking like a Looney Tune, okay? Like, that's how the enemy does. He'll use you as a puppet and you making a whole fool of yourself and you thinking you're the smartest person in town. No, it's
Should kids
dumb.
be allowed at pride parades?
Definitely.
Totally, 100%.
Everyone
yes.
should be allowed.
Everyone should be allowed.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just imagine
As long as they're celebrating and not protesting.
Everyone should be allowed as long as they're celebrating and not protesting. Why the protesters ain't come? Love is love, right? It's all about inclusion, okay? Tolerance. So why the protesters can't come? What you worried about the protesters for? Everyone should be welcomed.
Sure. Just
Well, in
imagine
that
I've
sense, I think-
I've never been, for example. Just for argument's sake, say I've never
You should
been.
go, it's gonna be fun.
Okay. Okay, cool. A lot of the feedback from the culture at Parade is that there's a lot of kink culture. Is that the word? Kink culture?
Yes, that's the word.
There's nudity, whether it's partial or full. It depends on which part of the world you're in, I suppose. I don't know. Adult content. Is that age appropriate for children?
That's a very good question.
In general.
Yeah.
I think it depends on what context, right? I don't think nudity is a bad thing at all. And I don't think...
What do you mean? What context? I don't. What context? What does he mean? Context. Nudity is nudity. And no grown man, grown women should be walking around children nude. I don't. What context?
think that exposure to certain kinks is a bad thing at all either. It's just a part of our world and a part of the conversation you need to have with your children at some point. So
I do agree you should have it with your children at some point. You should have the conversation. Now you have to start even earlier. In my days, when I was younger, didn't have to start as young as I had to start with my child because all of this stuff that's going on. And I want to make sure I teach him the right way so that the world don't teach him the demonic way or the crazy ways that they've been taught.
I think it's always appropriate depending on the context that you're going to, provide them with.
If someone was to expose themselves to children on the street, should they be arrested?
Totally.
Of course they're gonna say yeah. There's no difference though. There's no difference, I guess, because it doesn't have a title. But that same person can come to a pride event and expose themselves. There's no difference.
General.
Expose, you mean like...
During Pride, you mean?
No, on the
nudity-
street. In general. Any
Well,
part of the world, any country. Whatever the law is.
No, like it's not.
That's a very tricky question
Yeah,
because
it
it
is.
depends on their mental state. If they're mentally unstable and they're not
It
aware of
doesn't
what
make
they're
it
doing,
right.
Which they probably would be if they were doing that, right?
Well, maybe not. What if they're just walking down the street nude? They're exposing themselves to children, but if they're unwell, then
Anybody just walking down the street nude is unwell. It's mentally unstable. Is perverted. Okay. It don't matter how you try to flip flop it, change the context and all of that. It's
they might not
perversion.
necessarily they shouldn't get arrested. They should be taken care of in a different way.
What are your thoughts?
Well,
Context,
I think,
it's all in context.
Yeah, I think it all really depends on context. Obviously, if you go to like nudity beach with your child and you're like, you're teaching your child to be like comfortable in your body, and that's the place to do it, then obviously not. If it's in the context of like day-to-day life on the streets, then questionable, definitely questionable. And I think, I wouldn't want my child to like if I would not be ready to like expose my child for that, I would not be happy with it. And I think in that context, on the streets, people should be arrested.
Okay, so same question at Pride. If anyone at Pride was to adult performer, or I don't know how it works, but in terms of someone who's actually not a participant of Pride, but I don't know how it works, but if someone was at Pride and they expose themselves, should they be arrested?
Yes. The parents should be arrested too for bringing the child there. Yes, child endangerment. Yes, all of them. Arrest everybody. Everybody that had anything to do with it. Okay? Everybody. Arrest them.
What do you mean by non-participant?
If is there a procession or something like that, a performer, if anyone or anyone,
A performance, which
anyone.
kind of performance though? There can be so many.
I'm not
different
sure I
performances.
understand the question.
any performers, if
And-
anyone exposed themselves to a child at a parade, a
When you
Pride
say
parade,
expose themselves to a child, do you mean a child just happens to see them nude, or you mean goes up to the child, invites them to look at them nude? Because
Either.
that's a very different...
either you can give an answer for both. Either.
Well, my perception to nudity is normal. I grew up with the concept of, there's nothing wrong with being nude.
So you got violated growing up. You got violated as a child. And that's why this is just a generational thing, and it's just okay. You got violated. I'm sorry.
Coming from a European family that were very open. So I think if you just so happen to be nude, it's a different story than if you go up and you try to expose yourself in a sexual way, right?
But if a man, whatever,
The whole Pride Parade is sexual. It's celebrating sexual orientation. The whole parade is sexual. So what are you talking about?
was or female was to expose deliberately in front of, targeted, if I'm hearing that right, that
Exactly.
would be different.
I would feel like that's a different context.
Would they need to be arrested if they did that?
That is not up to me.
He does not want to arrest these folks. That is not up to me. He's asking for your opinion, okay? Of course, you're not going to have him arrested because this is stuff you was exposed to as well, but it's not up to me. Yes, they should be arrested.
That is up to the law, and the laws are different.
Yeah.
And they might, laws often don't apply. Laws are often not. There's no, what's the word I'm looking for? Laws are very, this equals this, right? But there is context, again, in everything. So whether they should get
Tremendous
arrested in that
context
scenario,
word.
again, there should be many decisions involved.
Because people keep talking about gays exposing themselves, gay people, but at the same time, people don't talk enough about gay people actually being targeted by lots of people that are super aggressive,
Should kids be allowed at Pride parades?
Yes.
They saying yes so confidently, like, yes. She had a big smile on her face. Yes. No.
Why?
Because children also should see that there's diversity. Like, if you ask me about this, I'm doing my thesis on teaching kids about Pride. So, yeah, I feel like they should know everything about it.
So at these Pride, so obviously we take both sides of the argument into play, and we see a lot of images of, you'll have seen this as well, scantily clad men and women,
Yes.
and a lot of nudity,
Yes.
and a lot of exposure, kink culture as well, a lot of adult culture. So is that an appropriate place for kids to be in?
No, the same way they can't go to clubs, the same way they can't buy alcohol to their certain age, the same way they can't buy cigarettes until they're a certain age, the same way, movies have restrictions. All of that, okay? There should be restrictions.
At these Pride parades?
I think it is. I think we're trying to figure out what the parade should be. So I feel like it should fight for our rights, and it should also show things that kids can see. And I feel like there should be a third part for maybe the more adult things. Yeah, I feel like if the law tells you not to get naked any day of the year, then don't get naked on Pride Day. But also
I think that's interesting. So I think that's my question. What's the difference between a grown man like myself exposing myself to a child, for example, and Pride festivals? Based on what we've just explained, what's the difference? Should
There isn't any.
they be arrested?
No.
They shouldn't.
No, because I mean, I don't know, maybe I haven't seen all of the Pride parades, but I've never seen full nudity.
Sure.
You can see people dressed with not a lot of clothes, but the things that
You see people dressed without all the clothes, but there's not full nudity. It might as well be. I done seen some videos and they just have the little tape things covering their nipples. I mean, it's very provocative. Very.
Have to be covered. I've always seen them covered. So you go to the beach and you see the people like almost naked. So to me it's the same because I've never seen anyone fully naked. If people get fully naked, I don't know about that, but I haven't seen it.
So you're saying, sorry, this is last question. This is a key part of the conversation. So you're saying that as long as it's not full nudity at pride parades, but we've already agreed that there is scantily clad kink culture. There is clearly a lot of
Right.
flesh on display at family friendly, as branded as family friendly events. If I'm not incorrect, there is there any difference between that and children experiencing that and a man choosing to flash or expose?
No, there's no difference. No difference whatsoever. But of course they're going to say that there is a difference. She's going to say it's a difference. Even though there is no difference. The same way you can go to, you can't take your child to a strip club and they may not get fully nude, but you can't take them to a strip club, okay? So I say this all the time. Just leave the kids alone. Do what you do. Leave the children alone and leave them at home. Like, why do kids have to participate in this type of stuff? I don't understand. Well, yes, I do. It's the devil.
Himself to children, is there any difference?
Yeah, there is a big difference to me. In my opinion, there's a huge difference. Like,
What's the difference?
What's the difference?
one thing is you see somebody, like, you can maybe expect a bit more nudity. The same way you'd expect something on, like, I don't know, another festival, you'd expect certain things. You can expect someone to maybe wear less clothes on a pride parade. But you as a parent
Right, which is why you don't expect to see children there.
or as a family member should be the one who tells the difference. But I don't think, I think they're two different debates, and mixing them is kind of, could like be close to homophobia. So I don't want to put them together.
What's the debate when you say that?
Why? They always talk about this homophobia. Because you're saying that children shouldn't be at these type of provocative events. That's homophobia. Phobia means a fear of something. Nobody is scared of you all. I don't understand what a phobia. Nobody is scared of you at all.
The two different debates. So one debate is child safety. When you say there's two debates, which what are the two
No,
debates?
one debate is whether people should be getting naked anywhere, and then there's pride. Like for pride, there's a certain context and a certain thing that's happening, and things
Right.
that happen surrounding it. And
The context is sexual orientation, who you're sexually attracted to.
maybe somebody, to show their pride, they need to wear less clothes one day. That's one thing, and I feel like
What?
on Pride Day, there's a parade, and you know that's gonna happen. But any day of
To show their pride, they need to wear less clothes. This is who's representing these folks, okay? That shows your pride. That shows that you're proud of who you are because you wear no clothes or less clothes. So that's all the only value that you have is your sexuality. Like, I thought it was more to us than just that.
the year, you don't get naked in front of a kid. But also, what I said earlier.
What's the difference? That's the interesting point I think that people want to know about is
Right, what
to
is the
convince people of
difference?
this. What's the difference?
I don't think.
Not
there's-
my opinion, just what's the
Yeah,
difference?
no, because like you don't get fully naked on Pride.
No, but it's about I'm not saying that anyone's getting. I hope not. I hope not. But in the context of it being family friendly, I think that's the context here. I mean, I presume
But-
you've been to festival Pride
Right,
Festival.
it's not
And
family
I-
friendly.
Anything. I mean, I think it's this. It's the parents that have to choose, and I don't think it's not a family event. And I feel like sexualizing the thing, like making the kids think that's sexual, is even worse. Like if you see somebody naked or
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's about your sexual orientation, who you are attracted to. A man with a man, a woman attracted to a woman attracted to both male and female, a man attracted to both male and female. It's about who you're sexually attracted to. It's your sexual orientation.
Not fully clothed, that's fine. But like, I do think there's a difference, and if people don't want to see it, they're not going to see it, but there is a difference. Very clear whether you're
What
showing your
is the
pride
difference?
and expressing who you are, or just like getting naked and making it sexual when it shouldn't be.
Is it appropriate for kids to attend Pride Festival, Pride Parade?
Yes, I think it is, because it's 2023 now, things are changing. I know a lot of people have issues with that sort of community in this day and age, but I just don't think you should try and hide your children from it. I think you should be very open to them knowing about.
Well, we can't hide our children from it because it's just everywhere. It's in the schools, and now it's even in the churches, it's in the stores, it's in the restaurants, it's at the White House. It's just everywhere. There's no way you can hide your children from it. But you don't have to take them to an organized event knowing that this stuff is going to occur at these events. That right there is abuse.
What's going on. They're going to see it regardless, and I think it's about embracing people that are different than us. So yeah, it's no problem.
At these parades, there's nudity, partial and otherwise.
Yeah.
What is nudity? Okay, fine. Partial, pretty much. Kink culture,
Yeah.
adult culture.
Yeah.
Do you think this is appropriate content for children?
For me, it does depend. It does depend. It depends what sort of
On
parent
what?
you are. To be honest, if I had kids, obviously.
Ding, ding, ding. I agree with her. It depends what sort of parent you are. Are you a good parent? Are you a bad parent? Are you a nurturing parent? Are you a perverted parent? It definitely depends on what type of parent you are.
Some people might take offense to it because they're like, oh, you don't have kids, you're young. But if I had kids, for me, like I said, it's about trying to get them to open up to things and not just be close-minded. If some parent doesn't like, their kids being exposed to nudity and stuff, it's fair enough. That is completely fair enough, and you should respect everybody's, opinions. But for me, I think there's nothing wrong with it. If a kid wants to go and is interested in that sort of community, let them experience that. Let them know a bit more about that. There's no point of saying no to children, because regardless, behind that.
There's no point in saying no to children. That is not love. I'm sorry. Love has boundaries. That is not love. It's no point to say no to children. That's what parents are supposed to do. You guide and instruct your children. You lead and guide them. You help them to make the right decisions. Train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart.
Back, they're going to go and try find out about things like this, aren't they? So it's happening everywhere in this day and age. So
If someone
So being that they're going to go and try to find out about it, why not just introduce them to it yourself? That makes sense. Well, my child is going to go and try drugs anyway, so why not buy the drugs for them?
someone exposes themselves to a child on the street, should they be arrested?
yeah, 100%.
If someone at a Pride festival exposes themselves to a child, should they be arrested?
Yes.
Should kids be allowed at Pride
Just stay
festivals?
consistent.
Yes, I think they should.
We know there's scantily clad men and women, and we know that there's
Oh my gosh.
an artistic scene there as well. Kink culture.
Okay. Didn't quite realise they were there, but okay.
I think that's the expression, kink culture. Just general
I know
adult.
what you mean, but yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just general adult culture. So if someone was to expose themselves to a child, you and I, reasonable people, on the
Yeah.
street, we'd want them arrested.
Yes.
Do men and women expose themselves to children at Pride parades?
I don't know.
If they were to,
Yeah.
should they be arrested?
Yeah.
She says she don't know. Yes, they do.
Same as everybody else.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Is there any argument or defence of that pride festivals have once
Good job
what
with
they
the
were,
consistency.
now they've actually become legitimised spaces for certain people to expose themselves to children. Legitimised spaces for that.
You mean, do they think that they can?
Whatever they're
Sort
into.
of.
Now, what he's asking is this going to make it where people who have these perverted minds and do expose themselves to children, does this open up the door where they can do it legally? Yes. It's definitely opening up the door where they can do it legally, and it's also causing children to think that this is okay. So then when they are in a situation where they're actually being violated by someone, they're going to think that this is okay. You're setting them up. Parents are setting them up to be violated. And the child is not going to realize until maybe later on that is not okay. It's not okay for someone to touch me this way. It's not okay for someone to expose themselves to me. But because you're taking them to these events, it's already changing their mindset to accept this type of stuff. And it's causing these perverts, okay, to have a legal way of doing it. Help us, Jesus.
Whatever they're into.
Yeah.
Again, compared with 20 years ago, compared with 5 years ago,
Yeah.
because we see there's a flag everywhere in London at the moment.
Yeah.
Look at Regent Street.
Everywhere.
That's not a pride flag, that's a trans, progressive, inclusive
Yeah.
flag. And there's massive problems there with women's rights and women's spaces in terms of the debate.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think that perhaps, what's your opinion, has pride legitimised the exposing of adult males, potentially females? to
Yes.
No.
No?
Yes.
Helped in that.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be doing it.
Let me know what you all think in the comments down below, what you think about the video. This is the world that we live in, y'all, and this stuff makes no sense. It's the job of the parents, of the guardians, to protect children, not offer them up as a sacrifice, okay, to the enemy. And that is what is going on. It's just setting them up for trauma, okay? Setting them up for trauma. So, like I always say, let's keep praying. Keep watch over your kids, okay? If you can speak into the life of another child, make sure you do that according to the word of God, okay? All right. God bless you.